Welcome to Barca News. It is April 24th, 2026. And today I'm going to tell you about Barcelona's summer transfer market, including the players who Barcelona are eyeing for signings and, of course, the players who could leave the club. We have a lot to discuss. So let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and I'm doing this short live stream because yesterday I had a dinner after work, a work-related dinner that ended super late. So by the time I got home, I was tired. I went to sleep. I didn't do any videos. So now I'm doing these two short live streams. I did one already. This is the second one to bring you all the news from yesterday so you can be updated. And then, of course, later today, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll do the Barca News podcast where I get to react to your comments live. All right, let's dive right into the news because, of course, the summer transfer market is right around the corner. Not quite, I guess, 2 months away, but nonetheless, in football months, that's very, very short period of time. So, of course, Deco, the sporting department, and Hansi Flick are already in the works for planning for next season. And of course, as you know by now, the plan is to sign two attackers, a center forward, a world-class center forward that can press, but more importantly, can score the million opportunities that Barcelona create. And then, of course, a left winger that's very similar to Lamine Yamal, someone that can dribble, that can take on defenders 1v1, that can create space through their dribbling. That way, Lamine Yamal doesn't have to do all the legwork and have 3 or 4 defenders on him the whole time. And of course, there is the center back where Barcelona are currently negotiating with Inter Milan for the signing of Bastoni. Now, before Barcelona can bring players to the club, some players will have to leave because, of course, you got to make money by selling players. And even if you don't make money by selling player, in other words, if the player leaves for free, that still helps the club because the club then clears space on their wage bill, space that they could use towards the signing. So for players to come in, players have to leave. So the question is, what players are Barcelona considering offloading this summer transfer market? Well, the first name that we're going to talk about is Marc Casado, 22 years old, contract until 2028. Someone that Hansi Flick asked him to stay twice now, this past winter and the past summer. But of course, Casado, being that he's young, he needs to play. He hasn't been getting minutes, has decided to look for minutes elsewhere. Sad news for me because someone who earns very little, who came up through the academy, who understands the Barcelona style of play, a profile that we really don't have on the team. I would rather him stay, but of course I understand his decision to want to play, to look for minutes somewhere else. So Casado is a player that will most likely leave this summer transfer market. He has interest in the Bundesliga and in the Premier League, and Barcelona think that they could get between 25 to 30 million euros for the academy graduate. Not bad money for Marc Casado, who, of course, cost the club 0. And even though he wouldn't clear too much space on the wage bill because he doesn't earn much, 25 to 30 mil in transfer fee, that could be used towards a signing. The second player in this one was a surprise for me. It's no other than Ronald Araujo, 27 years old, contract until 2031. Deco really bet on Araujo, but because a series of injuries that Araujo has suffered and the fact that he has struggled to fit into Hansi Flick's system, Barcelona are now open to hearing offers for Ronald Araujo, especially if Barcelona end up signing Bastoni, because if Barcelona bring in Bastoni, well, that doesn't leave much space for Ronald Araujo, and if he's already getting very few minutes, well, he's going to get even less if Bastoni arrives at the club. So Barcelona now willing to hear offers for Araujo this summer transfer market. Of course, the question will be, will Araujo want to leave? We'll have to wait and see. The other player that Barcelona are also considering offloading is, of course, Ferran Torres, 26 years old, contract until 2027. A player that Barcelona consider is a good substitute because he puts his head down, he plays. When he comes off the bench, he scores, he doesn't complain. But of course, as we've seen time and time again, he's not really that kind of world-class attacker that Barcelona needs in order to win championships, because you need players that will score goals, score the chances that we create. And if you don't have that, well, that's the difference between winning the Champions League or being knocked out. And as we've seen, Ferran just simply doesn't have the quality to be the starting nine. So Barcelona are willing to hear offers for Ferran Torres this summer transfer market. And of course, the question, just like Araujo, is will Ferran want to leave? Because Barcelona have tried to sell him several times, and every time he has said no. The other player that Barcelona are considering his exit, it's no other than Rooney Bardarji, 20 years old, contract until 2029. Barcelona signed this past summer for 2.5 million euros, and his market value has increased to 15 million euros. But this is not the same exit as Casado, Araujo, Ferran, or Ferran. This is an exit that Barcelona wanna keep control over. What does that mean? Barcelona know that Rooney Bardarji has a lot of potential, but of course he does play in the same position as the best player in the world, Lamine Yamal, which means he's hardly ever gonna be getting minutes. So Barcelona don't wanna stop or affect the development of Rooney Bardarji. So Barcelona wanna send Rooney on loan, or if it's a permanent transfer, they want it with an option to purchase in the future. That way, they could always bring Rooney back while he has the opportunity to develop somewhere else. Another player, of course, in this one you already knew about is Robert Lewandowski. Barcelona are trying to renew him for one more season with a low salary, but it doesn't seem that Lewy wants to stay. He feels like he should be getting more minutes at Barca, so he kind of feels like a little bit slighted, I guess, if you want to put it that way. He has offers from AC Milan, Juventus, Chicago Fire in MLS, and of course, Saudi, who've been chasing him for quite some time. So it's most likely he's going to leave. And then, of course, there is Marcus Rashford, 28 years old, on loan until the end of the season. Option to buy worth 30 million euros, but between the 30 million euro transfer fee plus his incredibly high salary, which will be top three in Barcelona, Barcelona is just not willing to make that investment on a player that has failed to impress the club, especially since the injury of Coutinho, which was the perfect opportunity for Rashford to show us what he has, and well, he has showed us why he is dubbed Trashford. Anyways, these are the 6 players that could be leaving this summer transfer market. Well, in the case of Rashford, for sure. And of course, that will make space for, as I said, the signings that Barcelona want to make: center forward, left winger, and center back. As we know, center back right now, Barcelona working on Bastoni, but who will be the center forward and the left winger? As you know by now, Barcelona's number one target for the center forward is Julian Alvarez. More and more reports continue to come out that Julian wants to come to Barcelona, that he wants to play in Barcelona. But to me, this is going to be highly, highly unlikely. Barcelona have budgeted 100 mil for his signing, but Atletico Madrid not only are not willing to sell, but even if they are, they would want a lot more than that. And I just don't see how this would happen. I think the only way this would happen is if Julian forces his way out, if he sits down with Atletico and says, look, I want to leave and I want to go to Barca and Barca only. But of course, I just don't see that happening. So Julian is still Barcelona's number one target. But I put this in the, I don't want to say impossible, because nothing is impossible in football, but in highly, highly improbable column. And for the left winger, Barcelona's number one option, their favorite option for the left wing, is no other than Victor Munoz. Incredibly talented winger with lots and lots of potential, currently playing for Osasuna, has a 40 million euro release clause, which makes him affordable for Barca. But of course, half of that would go to Real Madrid. Not to mention Real Madrid have an option to buy Victor Munoz for 9 million euros this summer, which they could activate, which they're saying Real Madrid want to do it to block his move to Barca. But what the hell are you going to do with it? Yet another left winger? I mean, is that what Florentino Perez is trying to do? Collect 5 left wingers? Kind of like the Infinity Stones? I don't know. But anyways, Victor Munoz remains Barcelona's favorite option to reinforce the left wing. And now, new news have emerged that if Victor Munoz had to choose between Madrid or Barca, he would much rather to go to Barcelona, because, of course, he did come up through the academy. That's him right there in the picture, through Barcelona's academy. As you can see, he came up with the likes of Xavi Simons and Alejandro Balde, so he would like to come back to Barcelona. He would prefer to come back to Barcelona rather than Real Madrid. Anyways, that is all the news. Let me know what you guys think about these 6 players that Barcelona contemplating offloading, and let me know about what you think about Victor Munoz being our next left winger. Does it bother you that half of that money could go to Real Madrid? Yes, no, maybe. Let me know down below in the comment section. I will see you guys in the podcast later today. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, Barça.